move to my new home had been a whirlwind of activity, filled with boxes to unpack, furniture to arrange, and new neighbors to meet. But despite the chaos, there was an underlying sense of excitement, a feeling of anticipation for the new chapter that lay ahead. The house itself was charming in its own way, with its creaky floorboards and cozy fireplace, and I found myself falling in love with it more and more each day. It was a fresh start, a chance to leave behind the memories of the past and forge a new path for myself in this unfamiliar town. At first, everything seemed perfect. I settled into my routine with ease, attending classes at the local college and spending my evenings exploring the nooks and crannies of my new home. But as the days turned into weeks, a sense of unease began to settle over me like a dark cloud. It started out as nothing more than a nagging feeling at the back of my mind, a sense of being watched, of something lurking just out of sight. I brushed it off as nothing more than nerves, a product of my overactive imagination, but deep down, I knew that something wasn't right. And then, one fateful night, my worst fears were realized. I had stayed late at the library, buried in my books, and by the time I left, darkness had descended upon the world like a heavy blanket. The streets were deserted, the only sound the echo of my footsteps on the pavement as I made my way home. But as I turned the corner onto my street, I saw it, a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness just beyond the reach of the streetlights. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, but as I drew closer, I realized that it was all too real. It was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen before. A massive, hulking beast that resembled a dog, but with eyes that gleamed with a feral intelligence. I froze in my tracks, my heart pounding in my chest as the creature turned its gaze towards me, its lips curling into a snarl. And then, as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into the night, leaving me standing there in shock and disbelief. I stumbled backwards, my mind reeling with a million questions and no answers. What was that thing? Where had it come from? And most importantly, was it still out there, lurking in the darkness, waiting to strike again? I knew that I needed to get help, and fast. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911, my voice trembling as I recounted what I had seen to the operator on the other end of the line. But even as I spoke, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in grave danger, that whatever had crossed my path that night was something far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. As I stood there, frozen in shock and disbelief, my eyes locked on the creature before me, I couldn't help but feel a surge of primal fear coursing through my veins. It was like nothing I had ever encountered before, a monstrous apparition that seemed to defy the laws of nature. Its form was twisted and grotesque, with matted fur that bristled like the spines of a porcupine. Its eyes, glowing with an otherworldly intensity, bore into mine with a fierce intelligence that sent shivers down my spine. But it was the creature's size that truly struck fear into my heart. It stood at least 7 feet tall, towering over me like a behemoth from some ancient myth. Its muscles rippled beneath its fur, powerful and sinewy, as it moved with a predatory grace that belied its monstrous appearance. As it snarled at me, its lips curling back to reveal rows of razor-sharp teeth, I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Instinctively, I took a step backwards, my mind racing as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Was this some kind of elaborate prank, a hallucination brought on by stress and exhaustion? Or was it something far more sinister, a creature from the depths of myth and legend, unleashed upon the world to wreak havoc and destruction? I didn't have time to ponder these questions. However, for in the blink of an eye, the creature turned and vanished into the darkness, leaving me standing there in stunned silence. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even think. But then, as the reality of what had just happened sank in, I knew that I had to act, and act fast. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911, my voice shaking as I recounted what I had seen to the operator on the other end of the line. I knew that I sounded crazy, that no one would believe me, but I didn't care. All I could think about was getting as far away from that creature as possible before it decided to come back for it. And as I waited for help to arrive, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the creature was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next opportunity to strike. But for now, at least, I was safe. And as I huddled in the safety of my home, waiting for the authorities to arrive, I vowed to never venture out into the darkness alone again. For in the heart of the night, the true horrors of the world are waiting just beyond the reach of the streetlights. As I stood there, trembling and shaken, the distant wail of sirens cut through the night, drawing closer with each passing moment. Help was on the way, and with it, a sense of relief washed over me like a wave crashing against the shore. The police arrived soon after, their flashing lights illuminating the darkness as they searched the area for any sign of the creature. But by then, it was long gone, vanished into the shadows like a ghost in the night. I recounted my harrowing encounter to the officers, my voice trembling with fear as I described the creature that had crossed my path. They listened intently, exchanging worried glances with one another, but there was little they could do without any concrete. In the end, they assured me that they would keep an eye on the neighborhood and urged me to call if I saw anything suspicious. With a grateful nod, I thanked them for their help and watched as they disappeared into the night, leaving me standing there alone once more. But despite the terror of that night, life eventually returned to normal. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, until the memory of the creature faded into the recesses of my mind like a dream upon wake. I focused on my studies, threw myself into my work, and slowly but surely, the fear that had once gripped me loosened its hold. I made new friends, explored new hobbies, and before long, the events of that fateful night became nothing more than a distant memory, a tale to be recounted around campfires and late-night gatherings. And as I sat on the porch of my new home, watching the sun sink below the horizon in a blaze of fiery colors, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the peace and tranquility that surrounded me. The world was vast and full of mysteries, but for now, at least, I was content to leave them undiscovered, content to bask in the warmth of the present moment. For whatever may lurk in the shadows, I knew that I was no longer alone, and as long as I had my newfound sense of strength and resilience, I could face whatever challenges the future may hold, and emerge victorious with my spirit unbroken and my heart filled with hope. But as time passed and the memory of that night faded into the recesses of my mind, I found myself returning to my routine with renewed vigor, determined not to let fear dictate my life. I threw myself into my studies, rekindled old friendships, and embraced the simple pleasures of everyday life. And though the memory of that encounter would always linger in the back of my mind, a reminder of the fragility of life and the mysteries that lurk in the darkness, I refused to let it hold me back, for I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I had the strength and resilience to face them head on and emerge stronger on the other side.